Reading from the Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory. God.
At that time, Jesus exclaimed, I give praise to you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth. For although you have hidden these things from the wise, you have revealed them to the little ones. Indeed, Father, this brings you great happiness. Then he said to the people, My Father has handed all things over to me. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son wishes to reveal to him. Come to me, all who are struggling hard and carrying heavy loads. I will give you rest. Put on my yoke and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble, and you will find rest for yourselves. For my yoke is easy to bear, and my burden is light. These are the words of our brother Jesus.
Praise to you, Jesus Christ.
Have a seat. Well, for a brief moment, a few months ago, I was on a fitness kick. I was convinced I could become a lean, mean muscle machine. And so I signed up for a 5K race and I started training. When I noticed that no matter how hard I pushed, my legs could take me far, but not fast, I thought to myself, well, I'll wear ankle weights. So I purchased these 2-pound weights, strapped them onto my ankles, and set out for my usual 4-mile hike. It wasn't long before I took those weights off and regretted having to carry them until I returned home. The yoke that I had attached myself to wasn't light. What are the burdens that we haul around? Those things that Jesus is calling us to set aside. Those things perhaps our church is being asked to lay aside. In our readings, we're given a hint. Jesus, the King who entered Jerusalem on an ass, says his yoke, which is easy and light, is built upon being gentle and humble, much like the little ones who understand the wisdom of God, while the wise and learned remain confounded. We have seen our wise and learned confounded this week by the actions of our traditionalist brothers and sisters, those who belong to the Society of Pope Pius X, in their ordinations of 4 new bishops without the permission of Rome. Those who adhere to the teachings of Vatican I, refusing many of the reforms of the Second Vatican Council. Those who have, according to some, torn the seamless garment of Christ in their act of schism, their latae sententia, or automatic excommunications. What do we do with these Catholics who love the smells and bells of our faith tradition, who prefer to kneel at the communion rail and receive on the tongue rather than on the hand, who like Latin and not the common vernacular, who claim to love the church with all her shortcomings, who claim they love the Pope but don't agree with him on many things? Who are they wounding with their beliefs? With over 600,000 believers who attend their services worldwide, these traditional Catholics believe that it is out of necessity that they must ordain more shepherds for their sheep, rather than to wait to resolve their differences with Rome. If I am honest, there is a part within me that quietly wants to celebrate this purification of the church from the Latin Mass crowd. Let us be more progressive. more inclusive, more Vatican II. Gone are a large number of those who stood in opposition to the things that we have fought for. Perhaps now the Church can lean more fully into the teachings of the Second Vatican Council. But woe to me, a woman priest who has been considered and condemned in a similar fashion. Woe to all of us who want to take this opportunity to close the door on those who worship differently than we do. For if we live by the sword, we will also die by the sword. In other words, what goes around comes around. If we embrace the severing of part of the body, we ourselves will remain severed. Remember when we complained that bishops were denying the sacraments to our political heroes because of their stances on the right to choose, their support of the LGBTQAI community, their left-wing politics opposed by the bishops. We wonder why the same measuring stick of heresy hasn't been used to discipline our vice president, who argues with Pope Leo on the merits of a just war, with his hands in the slaughter of innocent lives in the Near East. Consider those he has wounded with his dissent from the teachings of the Church. And we also have to look in the mirror, don't we? We have to ask about our own dissents, our own choices to use birth control, to listen to the homily of a layperson, to follow the leadership of a woman, to divorce and remarry, to fully embrace our gay children, to use the chosen pronouns of our trans friends, to refuse to consider the creative genius of a God in our queer siblings as something intrinsically disordered, to avoid stepping into the confessional at least once a year. When is the last time we went? Or to fail to fast during Lent, or to fail to keep all holy days of obligation. How many times have we heard our spiritual leaders teach on something and we have wagged our heads because their ideas seem so outdated, so pre-modern? How can we in good conscience then criticize those who also wag their heads, even if it is at those teachings that we align with? But when you step back and look at these fellow believers, the Church is now calling it heretics and schismatics. The bare bones of what they have chosen to do is to take a stand, is to say, with all due respect, Holy Father, we disagree with you. And what Catholic, present or past, hasn't disagreed with a Pope, with the Church's teachings on something? Lord knows, even our popes disagree with other popes. We are not a cult. We each maintain the right to think for ourselves, whether we admit to it or not. Ultimately, we have to listen to our well-formed consciences, for it is in our consciences that we find God, that we consult with the Holy Spirit. For no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son wishes to reveal him. Wisdom is given to each as God determines, to the simple, the childlike, confounding the wise and learned. So let's speak for a moment on this idea of the seamless garment of Christ, which according to the Pope is now torn, and the blame game that is being played regarding who is responsible for tearing the garment. Who is it who tore the garment? The rule enforcers or the rule breakers? bishops pointing to the society's leaders and those leaders blaming the church. This concept of the seamless garment is based on the story of the crucifixion, when the Roman soldiers took the cloak from Jesus and tore it into 4 pieces. It was popularized in 1983 by our own Cardinal Bernardini, who explained that the moral and social teachings of the church form an inextricable whole. But the phrase originated with pacifist Eileen Egan, a woman, in 1971, and was used to describe a holistic reverence for life. It was intended to take us out of our political divides that protect the rights of the unborn, for instance, above the rights of those on death row, the rights of the aging, the dying, the rights of those without access to the basics of life, the rights of those caught in the crossfire of war. A seamless garment, no difference between each class of person, each one afforded the dignity and worth that God bestows on them. But recently, Pope Leo and other leaders in Rome have applied this concept to the actions taken by the society, with Pope Leo writing to them, I pray for you, because to tear the seamless garment of Christ is a sin of extreme gravity. Likening the church to this mythical garment, as he threatened that to go through with their plans would effectively excommunicate them from the whole of the Roman Church. Perhaps what the church must recognize is that in our postmodern world, most humans around the globe reserve the right to define themselves, to determine for themselves, for instance, how they define their racial and ethnic identities, their gender and sexual orientations, their political affiliations, even the members who constitute their families, and their religious practices. Whether that be as one who is spiritual but not religious, atheist or agnostic, lapsed or practicing Catholic, Protestant, non-denominational, culturally, in name only, cradle or convert, adhering to or in defiance of, cafeteria, devout, progressive, reforming, or radical traditionalist. Who owns the right for us to call ourselves Catholic? Who owns the title of Catholic? I don't know about you, but when I think of my Catholic identity, the things that come to my mind have to do with our preferential care for the poor, our call to protect the dignity of others, our call to align with the marginalized to serve the least among us. I think of our love of the sacraments, of the Eucharist, our breaking of bread with one another. I don't think it even crosses my mind that to be Catholic means to be 100% aligned with the teachings of the church and to be obedient to the Bishop of Rome. Do you? Is that a part of your identity? And don't get me wrong, I love our Pope. I have high hopes for the church under Pope Leo, who has shown tremendous strength in confronting warring world powers, for instance, confronting the leaders of our country who are bent on strength through dominance. But I also hold a vision of a reformed church, one where our leaders ride on asses, where they wear sandals, not polished red slippers, where every person truly counts, where our conversations are circular and not highly hierarchical, balanced across ideologies, culture, race, and gender. And if being Catholic is something that lives within the marrow of our bones, as many of us experience it, if we are part of a family that many of us were born into, and some of us actively chose, sealed forever with the community through our baptisms. But if we can gather with other like-minded Catholics and celebrate that we are the church, if in practical terms we know we can walk into any parish where the priest doesn't know us, because what priest these days really knows his sheep, and we can receive communion, the Eucharist, then the opinion of Rome that we who disagree with our Pope are cast outside of the parameters of his church, well, what does that really mean to us? We have to ask ourselves, is the practice of excommunication something we have outgrown as a church? Much like the outdated teachings on things like birth control, teachings that we prayerfully choose to ignore in declaring our identities as Catholic. And who would be left in this universal church if we eliminated all who disagree with any of the popes? All who read the teachings of Rome and decide to do otherwise? Who would be left? Can we just stop this madness of excommunication, please? Can the church pivot now and recognize that if even its most ardent supporters, people we call radical traditionalists, can stand defiant in the face of excommunication, then the power of that threat is over. Power holders of Rome have lost that battle. And it begs the question, what happened to our synodal mandate to build a bigger tent? To stretch the poles so that all who make this universal church so amazing can find a place within it. Christ calls us to put on his yoke, to be gentle and humble, to walk alongside and not rule over, to listen to those who also know the Father, to recognize that God reveals truth to the simplest among us, not just to those who ride on mighty steeds, the rulers and enforcers of the Roman Empire. We are called to listen, to learn, and to include. For all of us who love God are on a journey. We are each doing the best that we can with what we think we know. Yes, it is true that a seamless garment is a stronger one. I looked that up. I was hoping it was not, but it's true. It is stronger. And if indeed Jesus, the humble king who rode in on a donkey, Jesus, who also stood in opposition to the Roman Empire, had such a glorious cloak that the soldiers fought over 1/4 of the fabric, that strong, seamless garment served no purpose to the one crucified. We could fight over being cultishly cohesive, or we can agree to disagree on many things, and to celebrate instead that despite all, we come together in love. Brothers and sisters, let us choose love.